Yo, what's up? What's up? It's your boy Domuto back with another video. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, we got Chef the Programmer, and y'all know I'm watching Goku versus Saitama, the fan animation. But I really want to know who will actually win. I believe Goku will win, but because I don't think Saitama ever fought a nigga like Goku on the show. But I'm gonna have him explain because he do all the research and stuff. I was looking through Seth the Programmer's page. And I was like, okay, I want to watch. I'm gonna see if I can watch more videos eventually. There's some Naruto videos I kind of want to watch and shit. Like, could Madara beat all the Uchiha or ranking the best the Akatsuki and shit like that? But let me know if y'all want to watch more videos by him. You know what I'm saying?
Imagine that you just finished reading the original Dragon Ball manga and watched Goku grow up from some naive kid in the jungle who didn't even know what a girl was to fighting a god-slaying demon with the whole universe cheering for him near the end, and then going to raise its reincarnation, named Oog, as the strongest person in the whole universe, looking for more. However, many years or chapters it took afterwards, you then begin your next read-through of a new series. You go in expecting another journey of growth like many shonen you've seen already,
Right.
but this time, instead of starting from the bottom, this character is already at the top. A character who is already the strongest in the story from the get-go. A second lap for shonen fans that shouldn't have to start over. If you were to throw Goku at the end of the story and pit him against the terrible Demon King Piccolo, the dominator of the universe Frieza, or the culmination of the past generation in Cell,
His energy alone.
one punch, if not even less maybe. But this doesn't just apply to Goku. What about Naruto or
That'd be crazy. Goku just powering up could have just knocked them niggas out. That's how easy.
Ichigo
Crazy.
from Bleach? What if you put Naruto after reaching the end of his story against the demon of the mist Zabuza,
Easy.
Gaara of the sand,
Slight
or
work.
the leader of the Akatsuki Pain?
Slight.
Surely, it would still be no contest. Same applies to Bleach or really almost any battle shonen out there.
Yeah.
This concept is one's vision of Saitama in One Punch Man, a protagonist that starts at the end game, but still has to live through the story with how it would affect him and others. If Goku was in the same position as Saitama is, he would more than likely be very, very bored. And that's exactly Saitama's predicament throughout the story of One Punch Man. Murata often compares Goku and Saitama as two carefree characters that live for the excitement, but are often too strong for the people around them. And whenever you see them, you feel as though everything will be okay. But even though Murata, the artist of the One Punch Man manga, compares them, how would they actually stack up against each other in a fight, or even just comparing their stories? Would it be over in One Punch? One Punch Man is an ongoing series, so it's impossible to say for certain what Saitama's max limit in combat is, nor am I going to act like I know it. But that doesn't stop people from arguing about this subject, and if someone put a questionable device to my head and forced me to answer, or else, this is what I would say. Whether it be potential King Piccolo jokes or possible Attack on Titan references, Saitama has one-shotted many creatures in the story, regardless of whether or not they can destroy entire cities or mountains with no effort, and no matter what heroes these monsters defeated beforehand or struggled with, Saitama almost and not purposely seems to undermine everyone else with how effortlessly he disposes of every serious threat that everyone risks their lives fighting. Although to Saitama's credit,
I love
take
One
a
Punch
blow
Man.
on purpose during the Deep Sea King fight by acting like he only won because every other hero before him weakened it. Even the dominator of the universe, who can either blow off the surface of the planet or destroy entire stars, depending on what guidebooks and translations you use, yada yada, gets one-tapped by a serious punch from Saitama, even when this same being Boros could launch Saitama to the moon at probably around light speed with a single kick. Even later, when the rank 2 hero and Esper, Tatsumaki, fights against the Monster King fused with another sidekick named Psychos and splits a massive continental disc off the entire planet, Saitama is heavily implied to still be far stronger and deals with human monster Garo rather easily, who is considerably stronger than every other monster the heroes had to fight from the Monster Association. This is due to it being implied that Tatsumaki needs to be at full condition to deal with a guy named Golden something something, and is fodder to even a not transformed monster Garo, blah blah. However, the unfortunate reality of this is that Saitama's feats still don't really compare to Goku's. Now, I'm not saying Goku
Ain't in like the new manga or something that there's a reason why he that strong and shit. I haven't read it. So somebody told me that. I can't wait for that show to come back to One Punch. I know my show coming back, Super coming back. You know, so I love the manga right now. My Hero coming back. Black Club, man, it's about to get lit.
wins just because he has better feats, but we need to get this feat part out of the way, obviously. In terms of feats, I think even the craziest of One Punch Man fans would agree Goku has more to offer. It's just the natural progression of the stories. Goku has had much more power progression and cliffing, whereas Saitama, despite being at his endgame power, does not need to use this endgame power against earlier villains in his series. So obviously Goku has more to showcase. And not only has Goku had more time to do so, but Goku has even gone beyond just his endgame version in terms of feats, and even got a blatant continuation to his story in Dragon Ball Super, where he even gets to display more feats on top of that. So it's pretty obviously in Goku's favor here, and not very fair to say. Now, not to say Dragon Ball Super continues after the end of Z, because obviously the end of Z is a time skip, but just in terms of being able to display more feats after his series was over. Goku similarly has had to fight beings who could vaporize entire cities, had to outscale people who could one-tap the moon, beings who could point or wave away entire planets, creatures that could obliterate solar systems, and even gods who could...
It's crazy. Niggas was planetary destruction.
Even in terms of speed, Goku has had
first
to
part
dive past the
DBZ.
universal body in the anime in quick succession, surpass the gods of destruction who could leap from the universe to outside of it almost instantaneously, and
Raditz can destroy a planet.
Or even considering traveling the universe in a couple of minutes rather slow. In one instance, an assistant of one of these gods goes to fetch said god food 3 minutes away in another star system, and after getting impatient, the god of destruction appears there instantly within a minute. At least it's implied so. In Ultra Instinct, Goku's newest form, he easily reaches these levels, if not arguably beyond it, due to surpassing all of these gods of destruction through his battle with Jiren, a being above the gods. Not to say these gods of destruction couldn't have gotten stronger since then, but at the time since said feats were described, he is stronger than them. With Goku in just his Super Saiyan form against Beerus having a punch that contained power to destroy the entire universe, as described by the narrator numerous times, and only being hundreds to thousands of times stronger now with multiple transformations on top of that, you can see why Goku has this feat category a bit on lock, although, as I said earlier, Saitama is in the early stages of his story.
I'm confused about Dragon Ball Super. So, like, with their power, because, like, their power, like, they can literally destroy planets if they want. I think do they be controlling they shit when they fight? Because no way two god level characters on Dragon Ball Z or Super can fight and not destroy a planet. Like, that shit wild. Like, when they were fighting Broly, like, with those punches, could have easily destroyed the planet. I think they be holding back in fights.
It might show something crazy later on. This is just what we know at the moment. This is also important, but some people try to debate against Goku's feats quite often, and I feel like I will have to talk about this if I'm going to try to end the topic for now. However, the basic outline of it is that Goku scales to people who can shake infinite voids, and the narrator clearly says Goku has punches that can obliterate the universe. It's not just Beerus, even though he surpasses Beerus, at least at this time later. The obvious narrative intent here is that Goku and Beerus' clash would threaten to annihilate the universe, as is shown in both the anime and manga under the original author's supervision. Toriyama literally put the universe-destroying punch in both versions, when he didn't really have to. Another one is that people think that Dispo, a creature from a tournament later on in Dragon Ball Super, which is stated to surpass the speed of sound and light, somehow downplays Goku because people are acting like being fast and light is impressive. However, not only does this statement simply say Dispo surpassed the speed of light, not the speed of light, he's just beyond it.
Speed
but
of sound.
Even if you steelman that and said Dispo, a fast character later in the series, was only the speed of light, this character struggles with characters much weaker and slower than Goku, that Goku himself surpasses many times over and would simply outscale Saitama even
He's just fast, not strong.
I outlined more of this scaling in my How Strong is Ultra Instinct Goku video, which you can watch here. Even with the concept of, say, God in the One Punch Man universe, or if you wanked it and said he was the universe itself and Saitama would one-shot it, it still wouldn't really compare to Goku currently. The next part is many people try to get into Saitama having no limits. However, if you've seen Dragon Ball, you know Goku doesn't really have limits either. And the whole limit-breaking concept in One Punch Man, Goku breaks his body's limits numerous times. He doesn't just break them one time, he breaks
Plenty
them
of
numerous times. And in One Punch Man, breaking your limits doesn't make you omnipotent. We know Garo broke his limits and still could get a lot stronger, and Saitama still dealt with him with no problem. Boros with Meteoric Burst breaks his body's limits, and Saitama broke his body's limits, and there's still gaps between them. It doesn't make you omnipotent to have no limits in One Punch Man, so it's not really an argument. You guys get the point regardless. So from here, the next obvious argument to go over is not feats, but narrative implication. Perhaps it is simply Saitama's narrative that he must defeat everyone in one punch, or else he simply isn't Saitama. To get into this, we have to get into a lot of headcanon territory, as that's what these arguments are at the end of the day. As I outlined earlier, One, the actual author of the series, wanted Saitama to be an endgame level protagonist that has all of his power at the beginning because it'd be more exciting for second-time readers of a shonen series. He states that these endgame protagonists always seem to be able to beat everyone else and are the strongest. However, that statement would also apply to characters from other shonen series, not just One Punch Man.
Yes, One Punch Man is different. I like how they do that.
So, even if they are beating everyone else and are considerably stronger or potentially are the strongest in their story at the end, do we think that Naruto can beat everyone else in fiction because of this one statement? Does Goku beat everyone else in fiction? Ichigo? Not very likely. But if your name is James, don't answer that. I don't think One is trying to say that either, and nor do I think he's saying Saitama would solo stomp fiction. He's simply wanting his story to be in reverse, because it would be interesting. This usually gets into a lot of theories, as I said, but a good way to wrap up this particular argument is this. If Saitama's narrative is that he must win in one punch, then what about the characters that have to win narratively as well? Do they just cancel each other out? For instance, in the manga series Hajime no Ippo, there's a character called Takamura who is undefeatable so long as he sacrifices a piece of himself for a boxing match. Would this mean that if Saitama, even he, went all out against Takamura in a boxing match, he would lose so long as Takamura sacrificed a piece of himself? What about characters who always win due to luck, like Master Chief? Are these narratives superseded by the idea that Saitama has fought super strong giant monsters and Takamura hasn't? If feats are what matters, then why even bring up this narrative against Goku or other shonen characters then? The same would simply apply. Not only this, but Saitama doesn't really one-shot
that nigga Chef talking.
Anyway.
Go ahead,
It's
nigga.
implied he might be able to with the serious punch, but say for instance, the Monster King Orochi, he says, oh, I don't have to take it easy on you because you're an actual monster. So he tries to kill him in one punch. Not a serious punch, but he tries to kill him in a punch. And Orochi survives. And that's how he comes back later and fuses with Psychos. He also tries to one-punch Supernatural Water, which he doesn't kill in one punch. He also didn't kill Boros in one punch. There's a lot of instances where he doesn't just kill people in one punch, even if it's implied he could at full power. It would also apply with characters who we don't know the upper limit of. For instance, Zeno is only stated to be undefeatable above everyone else and can erase every character in the show with zero effort in a series like Dragon Ball, which contains gag characters like Arale. And it's implied that this is the case because he's childish and goofy.
True.
Showing a narrative even kind of above Saitama in terms of a debate like this. Does this mean Zeno inherently wins against Saitama? I don't think that's fair to say. In fact, I don't think using narrative in a versus vacuum is very reasonable at all, and seems to be less accurate than simply empirically gauging a character's actual shown strength. Of course, there's exceptions, especially when you're debating two characters from the same set of fiction, in which narrative is more important than in a crossverse debate, but I'll get more of what I mean concerning this particular matchup soon. The next argument is Saitama is a gag. So, because it would be funny,
I don't think so.
He would win. I don't really want to get into Saitama as a gag character here, since that would be a long topic on its own. But the people who say this, I'm just going to ask you, did you ever read the series?
No.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I had to reread this whole story just for this video alongside the webcomic, and I have zero idea where that's really coming from. Well, that's not true. I kind of understand, but it seems to be from a place of anime-only fandom and illiteracy. So, at the start of One Punch Man, Saitama is clearly displayed comedically with his goofy appearance, his contrast to other flashy shonen heroes and so on, which also helped make One popular to begin with, those types of characters that break the mold. Him beating people in One Punch is supposed to be the joke at first, but that joke starts to not become a joke anymore.
Nah.
We start to feel bad for Saitama as the story keeps going on. With every chapter and villain,
He gets tired of beating people so easily, man.
Saitama's humanity is kind of withering away, and that is most evident after the martial arts tournament, in which a whole chapter is dedicated to Saitama's depression and King trying to cheer him up and help him discover something else he can try at. Despite during many fights earlier in the series, as I said, they are comedic, and even when you think Saitama is finally struggling or met an opponent that impresses him, this shocked demeanor turns out to be because he forgot about a sale or something, and then just one-shots whoever he's fighting, like, say, Carnage Kabuto. However, the Boros fight is very, very different, and so is the Garo fight later. Now, I blame the anime for this, but in the manga, and even the webcomic at some points, Saitama has a few more details that show his character during the whole Boros saga, per se.
Yeah, they make it kind of just simple.
He brings up the prophecy he heard, which led him across the universe. And upon hearing the prophecy, Saitama twitches in excitement. Boros then brings up a story about how he, like Saitama, defeated everyone rather easily and was bored. He was almost like an antagonistic parallel of Saitama, a hero nobody knew versus a villain nobody knew, having a limit-breaking death match that nobody would see. At the beginning, the fight is still rather comedic. The famous "okay" line as Boros sheds his armor is iconic, but the rest of the fight ceases to be that comedic once Boros also starts to become more serious, as it's implied by Saitama that he already knew Boros wasn't trying his best either. Instead of Saitama acting like he's shocked because he forgot a sale like against Carnage Kabuto, he's shocked because Boros is genuinely stronger than he expected, in which Saitama even calls Boros strong not once, but twice after the "okay" line. This is once again in the manga only, and not in the anime, but once Boros then goes meteoric burst and shocks Saitama again, he kicks Saitama to the moon, and Saitama says, "This is almost a real fight," in which he then comes back to Earth. Boros uses his ultimate technique, and Saitama uses a serious punch in response. Now, the translation of this panel is debated about, in which it could mean this is almost a real fight, or this is almost a fight, you know, or etc. However, Viz corrected this to mean real fight, as the word Tatsukai can mean war, battle, or fight.
Yeah, I speak a little Mandarin, you know what I'm saying?
Like a bout. Saitama then follows this up with a serious punch, and one actually corrects and looks over all of the dialogue in the manga version that Murata gives to him to make sure it's all good and consistent. This means he approved the statement of Saitama saying that Boros was almost a fight or real fight, if you consider Viz the translation authority.
Right.
Or Saitama even looks rather excited when he comes back to Earth with a smile on his face during this fight, shocked he made it back from the moon, and even talks about how strong Boros was to
Genos.
From here, Saitama beats Boros, but it is not made to be funny, and in no way was Saitama walking away from Boros drawn with heavy detail supposed to be considered a gag. The line from Boros, "You are too strong," was supposed.
Yeah, he's not a gag character, man. Like it's hard for him, man, because he beats everybody in one punch, or he beats somebody rather easily, and it's really One Punch Man is really, really deep if you really think about it. You know what I'm saying? And I love this show too, man. It's crazy.
Supposed to be a sad thing for Saitama, as Boros had just lived Saitama's dream. Even in the anime watered down version, they tried to use a sad piano for this scene, and the panels showing Saitama's face are never drawn comedically, which are more obvious, say, with the "okay" scene. It's not the same energy. Saitama even lies to Boros to try and hype up how it was a good fight, like the prophecy said it would be, but Boros calls him out as a liar. Saitama did not beat Boros because it was funny. He beat Boros because he was too strong. And in the original draft by Murata, when he drew this fight in the manga, he was forced by One to remake it numerous times because he made Boros too clown-like when he started losing and not dignified enough when he fought Saitama. One actually went out of his way to make Boros have dignity against Saitama and to make it more serious, yet it's supposed to be funny? Something similar happens later with Human Monster Garo, in which Saitama is hoping that Garo can keep powering up like Boros and is happy when Garo can take some blows from him, but becomes disappointed as well and talks about how Garo is kind of doing what he does, being a villain instead of a hero for fun. Two limit-breaking opponents fight Saitama, and he doesn't just beat them in one punch to be funny. This argument definitely just doesn't hold up later after the first sets of chapters. Maybe if the story kept going with the same flow as the first chapters, this would make sense, but a lot of One Punch Man is about Saitama trying to discover his humanity, and while he's funny, and he's a contrast to the bleak world around him, he doesn't win just because it's funny, so nor do I think he'd beat Goku because it's funny.
No.
A pretty ignorant claim, no offense. Read the manga, learn what some words are, visit a library for once. Jokes. The other argument is obviously the name One Punch Man, in which I technically went over already as being based on his power being endgame and everyone else being early game.
So y'all niggas to read a book.
Them and gets bored. But even then, this is still contentious, even with the actual staff behind the series, and not agreed on. So why are the fans acting like it's agreed on? Yusuke Murata, the artist, once came out and said what he thinks the ending of One Punch Man will be. And in this breakdown, Yusuke says that he thinks the strength of Saitama doesn't come from just his limiter breaking, but from the powers of God as well. And at the end of the series, he will fight and defeat God, then losing his powers. After he loses his powers, he still remains as a hero, but then gets defeated by every villain and monster in one punch. So the association then calls him One Punch Man.
That'd be a crazy ending.
As you know, Saitama isn't actually referred to as One Punch Man in the story, but Caped Baldy. Yusuke was making a gag about how Saitama might just get one-tapped at the end instead. Now, I'm not saying that Yusuke's word is canon, or that's how it's actually going to end, just that the term One Punch Man isn't what a lot of fans act like it is, nor is it agreed upon. Saitama also still trains and gets stronger throughout the series, and thinks he could beat himself from yesterday, but if Saitama could beat anybody, then why can't he beat himself from the future? Is there some kind of Saitama plus rule to Saitama's omnipotent fiction soloing level punches? Once again, unlikely. Also, did you guys seriously forget that he trained to get his powers, or you're not only illiterate but maybe blind? But even in the battle with Boros, with the almost a real fight statement I brought up earlier, or almost a fight statement, if Boros was strong enough to, say, vaporize a star using the One Punch Man compass, which most people think is mistranslated or he can't actually do, and that's enough to almost be a fight or real fight to Saitama, how would Saitama, who's beyond spatial dimensions and can obliterate almost anybody in fiction, some who could kill Boros by simply existing in the same multiverse, at all think Boros was remotely competent or almost fight-like? Even if Saitama went very easy on him, if he's multiple levels of infinity higher than him, the statement, "this is almost a fight," doesn't make any sense.
It don't.
In terms of narrative, One Punch Man is rather unique as well, with many characters turning into what they surround themselves with or heavily desire, whether it be monsters or whatever have you. Garo and Saitama are great examples of this. If Saitama's ultimate goal is to have an intense and great fight with all his powers, as his dreams at the beginning of the series suggest, then would it not make sense for him to eventually create or find a reality in which that is possible? Say Saitama wished to be weak enough to lose, would he not eventually lose? Who's to say Goku couldn't be the ultimate opponent that Saitama was looking for, that could give him a good fight like his dreams wanted? There's too many confusing details to say objectively Saitama would win based off these types of arguments. All said and done, is it impossible for Saitama to beat Goku? No. Absolutely not. Saitama could very well watch Goku go Super Saiyan 3 or Ultra Instinct Kaioken times 100, say, okay, and then one-shot him or something. Who knows? But to say that One Punch Man is purely a gag story is pretty disrespectful to the actual story and author.
It is.
And it seems to ignore what the story really is pretty heavily. I'd say at the end of the day, maybe in a few years, Saitama comes out and shows a feat that makes us really believe he could just defeat Goku. But not because he's a gag character and Goku is
I gotta see him fight some crazy.
He's a character like many others whose powers simply start at the beginning instead of the end.
I need Beerus to pop up, and he need to be Beerus. What's up? Is it at the end? Alright then. Alright, bet. Man, great video about SethTheProgrammer, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, I need some more feats, like he said, man. I know I don't read this manga, so I don't know what's going on right now, but yeah, I don't think, you know what I'm saying? I don't think, and I like Saitama, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep watching the little fan made animation shit, you know what I'm saying? And if you like my reaction, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace. Oh wait, I'm about to end the video.